Howdy, Desert Boy here. Just wanted to take a few moments to talk about protection and some preparation in kind of these tough times. It has to do with, mostly protecting our families and just being prepared um, for whatever might happen in one of these scenarios where things kind of get a little sketchier. Hopefully we won't get to that point, and hopefully things will work out where we don't have to go beyond where we're at and what's going on with this whole epidemic. But in order to address that, the main thing I wanted to look at was, what do you do when you get to the gun store and all the guns that you thought you should have or would be the best ones to use to protect you maybe aren't there? So we're going to try to look at a few things. One, basically, we're going to address a little bit of safety right off the bat. We're going to look at handguns, then we're going to look at long guns, and then we're going to kind of try to summarize and maybe talk just a little bit about ammo for a moment, but just to kind of summarize the whole thing. So when you get there and you don't see anything there that maybe you thought you should see, you're like, well, now I think maybe I ought to have an AR, or maybe I've changed my stance on guns, or maybe I just want a handgun to protect myself. Remember, first thing is, safety always. So all these long guns here, all these rifles, the revolvers, the semi-auto, they've all been safety checked. They all have no ammunition in them. Ammunition's been removed. So let's just start off with that as to make you realize they have been safety checked. Safety's always first. Next, when you go to look for a gun, remember, I'm sharing my opinions and my thoughts on what works for me. So I'm going to share with you what I have in some of my inventory that works for me, and to give you an idea of alternatives maybe to what you might expect. Always make sure that you're familiar with the safety of the weapon and everything before you leave the gun store. Always make sure that you get proper training and instruction and understand all the firearms rules for basic safety. And always make sure that you get some range time with it, supervised range time, to make sure you understand how to use the weapon and encounter any safety or malfunctions and things that you might have to address. So that's really important. Make sure you do it with people you know are certified and are proper trainers, and always follow all your local, state, and federal gun rules and gun ordinances and laws in regards especially to how you carry them, how you transport them, concealed carry, any permits or any training that you're required to have. So just those things for starters. So those are the basic things you need to do right off the bat. Once again, make sure that when you're looking for a weapon that it's the right one for you. Talk to your local gun store folks or to people that you consider to be and that are experts and certified and understanding those things. Find the one that works for you. So we're going to look at a variety of calibers across the different long gun and handgun platforms. This is just meant to be kind of a synopsis of why I have these things for these kind of times. So to begin with, let's look at handguns. A lot of times people just want a basic handgun for protection. And even now, even though you may not be able to find other things, you might be able to find something like this, which is a compact handgun. This one happens to hold 5 rounds. This is a Ruger 357 Magnum LCR, so it will shoot 38 special plus P, and 357 Magnum ammunition. It will fire 3 different kinds of ammunition. Generally, you will fire 38 special or 38 special plus P in this gun because it's very lightweight and it has a short barrel, but you can shoot magnums if you had to, so it gives it versatility. Always make sure you find some kind of quality holster, because in these kind of situations, if you're trying to protect yourself or you have to travel or something like that, in the sense of following all your rules and your gun laws and everything, but you need to have a weapon with you. And if you had to run off into the woods or whatever, wherever it's legal, you need to have some way to transport it. Always make sure you got a holster. This happens to be an outside the waistband one, and this one happens to be an inside the waistband one. So once again, that gun's unloaded. Also for revolvers, make sure you have a way to reload them. This particular thing is called a speed strip. Basically, you open the action and you put a couple of them in at a time, and then you bend it, and then you do it. You do that again. Where I learned about these, and in particular this attachment, which is called a RASC by Neomag. You see Rask here, and I'm not promoting any of these particular ones. I don't get paid for promotions or anything. These are just things I've found to be useful tools. These are nice because they fit down in a little pocket, and it's got a little clip on it, and it can hold five or six. This holds up to 6. So I happen to see this on Beretta 9mm USA's channel, which I find to be very good channel. Has law enforcement background and things, and they really do some nice demos on there. Also Mix Up 98, who happens to be local to where I'm at. I hope these people don't mind me mentioning that. He also has a law enforcement background, has some really good things to share about all kinds of weapons and gun information and entertainment for you as well. So those are a couple really good resources I find. This whole thing about talking about these, being on this couch, I actually saw a video by somebody else I watch, a guy named Chuk's Outdoor Adventures up in Alaska, and he was kind of going through the same thing about, well, what do you do if you can only find certain things? And I hope, Chuk, you don't mind, but thank you for taking that approach. It gave me a thought on that. I hope you don't mind me doing this. So also another way to do loads, to reload your gun with a revolver, is a speed loader. Normally it'd be 4 more in here, so there'd be 5 altogether in this case, or 6 if you had a 6-shot. So you want to make sure you got a way to reload it. Just something to be aware of. The other alternative is semi-auto, right? A lot of people like revolvers because they're simple and everything. Once again, the semi-auto, this happens to be in what they call, this happens to be a drop leg holster, which fits on your leg, and it hangs down low. It's more of a tactical type holster that a lot of people use when they're in a more scenario, that survival scenario and things like that. So it gives them, it gets the gun kind of down and out of the way of other things you might be carrying on a belt or something like that, or on their vest, or if they have other weapons with them that are around there, with a strap and things like that. So this happens to be a Sig Sauer P226 Mark 25. It's a semi-automatic 9mm. Empty, as you can see. This is what you would call this is kind of a full size, and it's also a very reliable and very proven handgun. And so that's what you'd want, is something like this. This happens to be a Sig Sauer, as I said, but Glock 19, Glock 17, M&P Shields, M&P, Smith M&P series, Springfield makes XD series. There's a lot of those that would be good for that kind of function. Also, it's good to have a go bag for yourself. This has ammunition, spare magazines, ammunition carriers. In my case, it's got some medicine in it that I might need. So having something like that, people have various varieties. They might have a duffel, they might have some other kind of setup. So that's kind of the handguns. So handguns, good thing about them is they're compact, they're light. A lot of them shoot ammunition that you can find in some long guns if you get certain types. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. So if you were to use this particular revolver, because it's a 38-357 or one that's caliber like that, it's a 357 Magnum, then having a gun like this, because you get to the gun store and you go, well, I'm here to get an AR, an AR-15, or I'm here to get a 12-gauge shotgun. Well, right now you might not be able to find any of those, and if you can, you may not be able to find any ammo, especially for the 223. Something like this 9mm, you may not be able to find any ammo for it, but you might be able to find a similar gun in maybe a different model, but a similar make or something like that in 45 or 40 caliber or 357 SIG. Those are all more powerful calibers, but that's a possibility. You can always look for other calibers. In this case, 38-357, not quite as popular with some people as the 9mm is probably the most well-known ammunition. But this particular one is set up in more of a tactical way. First of all, this is a carbine. It's very short, so it's very good for being in scenarios where you're inside a residence or something. This is where ammunition becomes very important in selection, because if it's for personal defense, if you're using Magnum ammunition, it's very powerful and it could potentially over-penetrate, because you don't want to take out more than your target. If you're in a situation where you need penetration, then you might use the Magnum ammunition, but you have to think about that. and in regards to what your purpose is. 38 or 350, 38 or 38 plus P works fine in here. You could use self-defense ammo like hollow points perhaps with your handgun, and that you will need to make sure that they would work well in your rifle. That's why going to the range is so important. But in general, this would give you one ammunition for both weapons. Also, with 9mm, they make 9mm weapons like the Ruger PC carbine and things that allow you to have one ammunition for both weapons. This happens to have a red dot that's about $50–$60. It's a Bushnell TRS-25 and a UTC 3X magnifier on it. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you might have seen I have that on there. Downside to this is I really should have a leather kind of leather butt cuff on here with a sling, and a sling goes around here because I don't have any attachment points, but all the weapons should really have slings on them if you think you might have to use them in that capacity. So once again, this is the Henry 357 Magnum 38, and normally it comes with just open iron sights. I happen to have put a Picatinny rail on it. Okay, another alternative. Don't like recoil? The recoil in this is generally light, but the weapon's kind of heavy. This one's not much lighter, but it is a 22. A lot of people like 22s for survival scenarios because the ammunition is light in the sense that you can carry a lot of it and still have a lot of rounds. And in general, it's not as heavy as carrying a lot of your other ammunition. So you can carry a lot more. This particular weapon holds 16 rounds in a tubular magazine of long rifle, or it can shoot what they call longs and shorts. It holds, I think, 20 or 22 shorts. I've never used those, just long rifles. You could use this for small game hunting if you need it for survival, or you could use it for defense. Generally, most people would probably want to use 22 Magnum or higher for defense, but you know, if this is what you have and you've got 16 rounds, then you can cycle them pretty fast in a nice action like this Henry. And you can see it's unloaded. And the other thing is that you can find maybe a 22 pistol that's compatible with this caliber. It's also 22 LR, so once again you can have kind of the dual compatibility kind of thing. Some states, because they have restrictions on magazine capacities, even maybe for 22s, a lot of them have an exclusion for lever actions because they have a tubular magazine. So you have to check with your local laws. So talking about compatible friend for that, if you needed another one, remember that you have a holster for it. This happens to be a single action 22 Ruger Wrangler. And by the way, this one's under $200. Remember, you load one and then you load it up 6 shots, then you shoot it, then you have to eject them so the cylinder doesn't swing out like it does on the other gun. The other thing is it's a single action, so when you go to pull the trigger, you actually have to cock the gun in order to pull the trigger. So maybe not as fancy or as quick to reload as some other things, but once again, that's 16 rounds there and 6 here if you're just trying to find some way for protection that's got low recoil and also gives you some versatility to carry a lot of ammo. So what about if you needed to go hunting, or you have threats, you're threatened, or you need some distance to keep your family safe because those that are threatening you, or you don't want them to get closer, or you need to hunt, something like this. You could hunt with either of those other guns, but something like this is a regular hunting rifle. It holds, I think, 5+1. It's got a magazine, and it's just where you push the magazine, you just push the shells down in there, although you can get a kit where you can have a detachable magazine. This is a Howa 1500 270. Very high velocity round in general for hunting, all purpose. You can hunt up the elk with it, but the thing about it is it's got range. A lot of these other ones, they're good for 75 to 125 yards maybe. This one here, 200, 300 yards. Most people should be able to shoot 100 to 300 yards with a scope on it. And a lot of people that are, real experts, and they can shoot out to, 600, 700, 1,000 yards with this kind of caliber, especially with the right ammunition and understanding of ballistics. It also has a bipod on it, which allows you to rest it on something. So if you had a threat or you were hunting it and you needed to reach out, 200 or 300 yards, especially if the game was kind of dangerous or the threat was dangerous, this would allow you to maybe address that threat without allowing it to get too close. Plus, you might be able to find hunting ammunition more likely right now than you can 223. So maybe you can find, 270 ammo, but you can't find 223 or some of these others. Lastly, we're going to look at a 4570. Normally, I would say a shotgun would be, that's what most people would say, a shotgun or an AR type weapon, as I mentioned earlier. But this is a 4570. If you had to have something, maybe you only have a 22, but you want to have something to address, more heavier threats, or you even have this other one. Like if you thought you might, where you live at, there could be bears, or there could be other animals. It could be a threat. The 4570 is capable of taking any game. It's not for everyone. It's like a 12 gauge. It's got considerable recoil. 270, 30-06, they have recoil. These guns have much less recoil for somebody. The other thing is that ammunition's a lot more expensive. They do have some ammunition that's like cowboy action ammo that's less recoil that you could use if you had to, but this is also very good if you had some kind of threat where you maybe needed to penetrate something. If you didn't have a shotgun with slugs, something like this, especially as you get into higher powered ammo. Remember, this isn't for everybody. This has a lot of recoil to it. It would probably penetrate penetrate cover or something if you had a threat. You were trying to protect oneself, but also remember it will over penetrate. So if you use this inside of a self-defense setting, it's likely to go through all kinds of things besides your intended target. That's why you should always know your target and what's beyond it, because you want to make sure that you're only addressing your target and not trying to have any other results you didn't plan on. So it's the basic things. I just wanted to show you a few things that are maybe some alternatives if you can't find other things. The 4570, I'd say that's really not for most people, but the rest of them, the 22, the 38 357, the 270 or a 30-06 or a 308 or a 6.5 Creedmoor, those would all work fine to help you both have a versatile hunting one and some kind of standoff. I call it a standoff weapon because it's got some range to it, but that's how I term it. But once again, ammo is important. Are you trying to do self-defense, or are you trying to hunt? Are you trying to take out larger game, right? Or do you have small game, right? So you have to really think about not just what the purpose of the weapon is and what your ability is with it and how comfortable it is for you, but you have to think about the ammo that you need to use for it and what its purpose will be when you go to do things. Once again, as I mentioned out there, I hope everybody's getting through it, all this okay. All of us are, in my case, I believe in praying, so we're all praying and just wanting to get through things. And just some thoughts on, what might help you if you need to protect your family and you can't find the resources that you're looking for when you go down there to get that protection. So I think a lot of people are realizing the importance of the Second Amendment at this point, but it's also important that they go out there well equipped, trained, and have some opportunity to be safe with whatever weapon they're getting. Okay, if you like this video, if it's helpful for you, please like and subscribe, comment. And once again, I'm an enthusiast, a hobbyist and all that. Make sure you talk to the experts, that you have, people that are certified trainers and all that. Get all the information you can for what's right for you. These are just my opinions for what works for me. So this is Free Desert Boy. As I always say, be safe out there, whatever you're doing.